Mega Man 7 is not shy about its vertical sections. These ladders go all the way up. Well, part of the way up anyhow. After that, things get a little bit trickier. This is one continuous area you can scroll up and down. Even if you think you're finished with a part, you might need to come back to it. Surfaces are farther apart than they look. You're trying to hit things you can't even see. Without a lot of practice, it can get really messy. Whoa! Did I say you could get that close? Despite what you've seen, I'm not all that proficient in the fast weapon switching ability imported from Mega Man Excellent! While it's convenient to cycle through the weapons outside of the menu screen in search of where is it this one? Why can't I find it? Why are you hitting me? I'd usually rather just get it right the first time from the menu screen. Yay, a place for Proto Shield to shine. There are not nearly enough of these in the game. Or there are, but you probably don't have Proto Shield. I find it difficult to believe that without weather effects obscuring my view, nice, Mega Man is selectively nearsighted regarding glass platforms back there? I think this room would be more interesting if it were less of an enemy challenge and more of a trap challenge, like dodging something here, for example. And I think I'd prefer if this power-up up ahead. Not power up ahead, but, well, you know what I mean. If it were down at the very bottom of the screen with the other spinning Gabio... the Roomba blender. Don't you just hate when you destroy an enemy and, like here, they leave a power-up where you can't get to it? Mega Man, it's like you're not even listening to my commentary. This next part might have worked better in Mega Man 6 as an evolution of one or two of the challenges from the first half of the game, and these Wily stages... Rush? Whoa! Wait! Come back, boy! Slow down! Ooh, look at the background. What were we doing? Oh, slow down, etc. This castle's getting a little conveyor belt happy, and this conveyor belt doesn't add anything meaningful to the challenge. I propose you reverse the direction of the belt, put a spike pit under the ladder, and that way your power-up can fall into the spike pit, because that's funny. Here's a good challenge, standard platforming with a timed twist, though I'm expecting bullet bills to come out of nowhere in a minute. You just ride these platforms off into the sunset, or the next screen if a sunset is unavailable, and my head itches all of a sudden. Oh, yes, so much better, thank you. And sticking to the top allows you access to this alternate route, though technically if you're clever you can ride Rush Jet from the bottom up to here. In a way, this stage is Rush's last hurrah before being reworked in the next game into a Swiss Army dog that gives up the knife, woohoo, corkscrew, woohoo, and tweezers to make room for a spare tricycle tire, confetti, and a vegetable brush. I'm impressed that we're 7 games into the main series alone, and these bricks have appeared and disappeared in every single one, and they're still a challenge. Wow, look at this booteous bounty is there's a lot of cans here. And though I maxed out on S-Tank, singular, there's no sense letting this one go completely to waste. Just don't fall into the spikes on your way down. That could be really bad. Ooh, free Stegosaurus. But I think I'm full from that S-Tank now. Ooh, I could go for another E-Tank though. Let me see if I can go back there and get it. Come on, Rush, let's go for a swim. My arm itches suddenly, too. Oh, perfect timing spikes. Oh, much better. Rush, what are you doing up there? Did you ever miss Rush Marine? I do. I think that hard hat misses not being exploded. It's a shame that Rush Marine was phased out of the series so quickly. This would have been a great place for it. It's also kind of a shame that this is exactly the same boss fight as before. Well, not boss fight, mini-boss fight. It's kind of a fun word. Mini-boss. Mini-boss. Any shield. Different complement of increased is the word I'm looking for, complement of weapons this time around, which does switch up the gameplay a bit if you're using special weapons. I understand not every game has to have a water level, let alone one substantial enough to warrant Rush Marine, but I can't help but feel like maybe the developers ran out of ideas, though we did eventually... Oh, that doesn't look good. Yeah, no more spikes, I'm not itchy anymore. Get a spin-off game called Rush Marine. And maybe they thought it was redundant next to Rush Jet, but it doesn't have to be. What if they brought back that jumping ability from Mega Man 3, or added a mine layer or torpedo launcher? What if in water, Rush Jet automatically transformed into Rush Marine or shorted out? What are you doing, Mega Man? Get out! Public swim time is over! Let the kiddie pool behind in Centaur Man stage. Look out! Yeah, you better hide.
Haha, I'm so greedy taking power-ups I don't need.
Hey, if I don't take it and I die, then another me who's just as greedy as I am is gonna come through here and take it, and nobody wants to give an advantage to that clod. I still don't care much for this stage, but I've come to appreciate this boss now that I understand the pattern. Styled after a Japanese demon... Squared. That's his name. Maybe. Reminds me of the Mecha Dragon from Mega Man 2 in some ways. The key here is to alternate between offense and defense. Don't mix and match. And you can get creative too. You can use Rush Jet, or you could hop on one of the missiles and slide to charge up your noise... The one time I try to show off. That tears it. I'm breaking out the ultimate weapon. Drop a dog on him. That didn't work. If you can trust the internet, and really, why wouldn't you, the Japanese characters here translate to certain killing. Well, I am certainly killing you. My goodness, for such a large robot, it left behind a very small skeleton. Unless it's belly button lint. I mean, it did look like Rush was digging... right? Right? Let's go to Freeze Man again. As I get farther and farther into the Mega Man series, I'm finding it more and more challenging to come up with new and mildly interesting things to say. And I expect the developers probably ran into a similar issue when making these games. If you think about it, the Mega Man series has never really been one for sweeping changes. From one installment to the next, for the most part, it's a matter of refining the previous game, streamlining a little bit, tweaking here and there. It's not radically different from one installment to the next. The developers usually don't take a chance on that. They know they have something good going, so why mess with it too much? As they say, a bird in the hand is worth 40 in the shop, I think is what they say. What I'm getting at is that I can relate to Mega Man 7. After 5 installments of earnestly trying to maintain what made the last one good and improve upon it, without throwing things out wholesale and replacing them with something hopefully better, it's difficult to avoid repeating oneself, and the temptation to resort to gimmicks in order to superficially inject new life into one's creation keeps getting stronger. Mega Man 8 succumbs to that temptation big time, but Mega Man 7's struggle is with finding meaningful individuality in the face of Mega Man X, while synthesizing everything that came before it, including Mega Man X. And as we venture into the final stage of a game that's taken me 10 times longer to record than it took the developers to make, I am reminded that there's nothing wrong with doing things the same way you've always done them, as long as you're still having fun. I know exactly what to expect from this stage, but that's something I look forward to. Bring on the rematches! No, really, rematch me, please. I made it all this way and the teleporter's not broken? I guess Wily hired a different electrician for this part of the castle. Mega Man is confirming this thought. Looks like the elevator passes inspection, too. If it were the other electrician, it'd, I don't know, go completely up into the ceiling, which would be full of spikes. An empty room! Let's move in some Oh, you. This room needs an armoire and a dinette set, not a Slash Man. Maybe I can pretend he's an Auto Man. He is hyper and he does both. This will be an exercise in how to fight Slash Man. The more variables you can remove, the more control you have over the battlefield, and the more control you have, the fairer this battle becomes. It's still unfair, but at least it's a start. Now, I know this is probably going to fly in the face of almost everything I've ever said about special weapons, but it might be better not to use special weapons here. As we've seen, Scorch Wheel is a liability. Not only is it slow to fire, but it rolls along the ground and Slash Man likes to jump a lot. On top of that, there's Freeze Cracker, which is better, but if you miss, you're still vulnerable for too long. The Mega Buster is reliable, and even though you can usually only get in 1 or 2 hits before Slash Man flings himself back up into the ceiling, you can take your time to charge up the Mega Buster because he usually doesn't go until you've hit him 1 or 2 times. Control of the battlefield. Why am I drippings with goo? The other way I'm controlling the battlefield is by measuring my movements. I don't move unless I think I'm gonna get hit. Which I probably will be, depending on whatever that voice was. I don't run around in a panic, I wait, and then I dodge. Starting now. Slash Man was having trouble with me, so I figured I'd give him an opening so he didn't feel completely useless in this battle. Right. No, Slash Man's a jerk and he deserves to be Pillsbury Doughboyed to death. And look, I'm at full health. Perfect battle. Continuing on with the trend I've mostly adhered to over the last couple of games, I'll be using a different weapon against each of these rematch bosses than I used the first time around. Not only does that give me an opportunity to show you all of the different things that might happen in a battle, or at least some of the different things. If I showed you all of the different things, it'd take me like 3 years to make a Mega Man video. But it challenges me to play better and not rely on one strategy for any particular boss, though in this game, using the right quote-unquote weapon on some of these bosses shorts out their creativity circuits and locks them into a loop of dumb. Someday, when I design a Mega Man game, each boss is going to have 1 special weapon that does a lot of damage against them, 2 that do an okay amount of damage, and 1 that's really just to mess with them. Not that I'm entirely complaining about the distribution of boss weaknesses or the effects that your special weapons have on the bosses in this game, but wouldn't it be cool if Freezecracker froze Burstman's bubbles, turning them into big ice balls that fell to the ground and shattered? Or if Thunderbolt electrified the bubbly bouncies on the wall and had them shooting lightning bolts back and forth? The game already does a good job of presenting interactive environments and boss fights, and yes, these are bubbly bouncies, whee! And I think increasing that interactivity even further could have established an even stronger identity for Mega Man 7, and at the same time help to mitigate this installment's decrease in replay value due to the boss groupings. It'd be like an RPG where your status-inflicting spells actually inflicted status ailments. Everyone would want to play it. Well, I'd want to play it, and as the only person in the room I'm in right now, that makes me everybody. I've really got to learn to save these tangentially related digressions for boss battles that are less interesting, where there's not much to talk about. So for this battle, which is much more interesting, I'll just stick to talking about what's happening. There are graphics. Junk Shield makes this battle simultaneously easier and harder. Easier in that it takes much less time to defeat Freezeman, but harder in that you need to get very close to him, and even though you stop him in his tracks, goofy stuff happens. Remember, he's invincible for a moment after getting hit, and dead for a longer moment after getting hit too many times, so don't try and smash all of your Junk Shield bits against him in one hit. Well, that boss is dead now. Incidentally, Freezeman is vulnerable to Junk Shield because, as we've established, ice, freeziness, is basically just frozen water, and junk is trash and damaging to marine life and habitats. Therefore, Freezeman is filled with fish. Frozen fish sticks? Likewise, Slash Claw is effective against Springman because getting cut hurts. And you can fillet a fish, so maybe Springman is a spring trout. I'm gonna stop this line of conversation now. There's a certain amount of room in any given game for bosses with very easy and predictable patterns, the Toadmans of the world. But in the case of Mega Man 7, the game goes a little overboard. It's one thing to have one or two bosses with an easy, predictable pattern, but practically every boss is too much, unless the patterns are very difficult to discern in the first place, or very difficult to keep up with even once you know what they are. Elecman, seemingly one of the hardest bosses in the classic series to fight with just the blaster, but if you realize there's a pattern and are skillful enough to keep him locked into it, he's very easy. Springman stops being a challenge the moment you hit him. With the right weapon, that is. Fortunately, or unfortunately, if you like winning, Turbo Man is not the same in that department. Hit him with the right weapon, and he'll get locked into what I consider to be a more challenging pattern than if you left him to his own
on devices.
So it arguably takes a little more courage to fight Turbo Man this way, but I've got my spine, I've got my Noise Crush. We'll be fine! And Noise Crush is effective against Turbo Man because, have you ever heard some random noise in your car that just keeps getting louder and louder, and then all of a sudden it's like $600 of repair work? And who can keep up with that? Turbo Man can't. Oh, that's interesting. I sucked up one of the Noise Crush Dweedlies. Dweedlies. There is a name for those, right? On my way teleporting out? Oh, they're called Dweedlies. This battle is the epitome of sad. It is fun. There is something satisfying about in the bubble, bonk. Zoop. In the bubble, bonk. Oh, sorry, premature bonk. I love that his hat pops off when he falls down there. Just the facial expression, the shock and surprise. I love the background, just the detail in this game. There's a lot of fun stuff here. But if it's your first time playing this game, you might be fighting for your survival so hard that you don't notice these little details. Oh, I blew it. Oh, it's all over, it's all over. For Cloud Man. And I enjoy that I was able to just walk right through him in the bubble. And that he fits in a bubble in the first place. Because you can't bat him around. I guess he's a little too big to do that. Yeah. That's why, going back to my previous thought before the do-it-yourself Bubble Man moment, I think it's very important to play a Mega Man game at least twice before making a final judgment about it.
Good evening.
Maybe on a first playthrough you pick a terrible stage order, or maybe you get stuck on a couple of bosses whose patterns you just can't figure out. Conversely, maybe you have the best possible experience anybody could have with that game on the first try. If you never play it a second time, that's your only impression of the game. And with such tremendous replay value, hundreds, thousands, millions of different ways that you could play these games, you're selling them short or selling them too long, I guess, if you only play them once.
Dead!
I mean,
Undead!